almost forgot to put on my Marvel Cinematic Universe disguise, the flawless disguise will get you in and out of anywhere. Welcome to Flickin' Reel, your friendly neighborhood fancast. I am, of course, your host, Jesse Swift. We are your source for news, reviews, and daily discourse. I'm your host. I already said that. So, I am accompanied, as always, by the one, the only, the dwindling beard, Scott Fox.
Yes. Good morning, everybody.
How you doing today, Scott?
Hey, we're good. Glad to be back in the saddle after taking a week off last week. Excited to talk about the show.
It's so good to have you back. We really enjoyed having Chris on the show, but it's not Flickin' Reel without Fox.
I'm here. I'm ready to represent.
I give you full permission. If I can't make it a day, I'll let you run the podcast. You can call it Fox and Reel.
Hey, there we go.
That'll be a good time. Does it feel weird that Justice League's Zack Snyder's Justice League already came out over a week ago?
Yes, it went really fast, but what I'm impressed by is the fact that there's still so much buzz around it, and the hashtag Restore the Snyderverse has just taken over everything. And maybe we'll see. Even if Zack Snyder's not at the helm behind all the movies, but reinstating the storylines, the sequences, the universe that he had kind of built. But the movie, holy mackerel, it was so far exceeded expectations, and it set right all the wrongs that were done. It is weird because it happened so fast. But the sad thing is it just left me wanting more of every one of those characters. And I can't tell you the number of times I have watched the Superman intro, not impressed. And just every time I see it, I get like goosebumps and I'm just so jacked. And then he goes on to just absolutely whoop the crap out of Steppenwolf. And it just makes you feel good,
Absolutely. And we do have unfortunately sans Scott, but we do have a full review for the Snyder Cut as a companion with our Falcon and Winter Soldier review last week. So please feel free to check out that review with Chris Anthony Lopez. It's a great time.
And by the way, even though I wasn't there, you guys did an excellent job recapping that.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you so much. It was a little chaotic because I was like, let's try no notes. And then all of a sudden I realized we were like an hour and 15 minutes into it, but we had covered like less than half of the movie.
Yeah, a 4-hour long movie.
Yeah, it was a bit off more than I could chew, certainly. But today we will not be talking any further about the Snyder Cut, other than I'm just staying out of the hashtags right now because as much as I would like to see it continue, the toxicity abound is just ridiculous, and I'm not here to support that. So whatever happens, happens, and just like when it came to release the Snyder Cut, I'm keeping myself out of it. So now that we are nearly 4 minutes into the stream, we are going to introduce today's topic, which is the second episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier. I am silencing my phone, and that is called The Star Spangled Man, which I felt icky about the second I read the title. And we are kicking off the episode with the new Star Spangled Man with the plan himself, John Walker. A cool little locker room scene as he is exploring the locker room of his high school that he grew up going to school at. You want to talk about the scene a little bit, Scott?
Yeah, it was a good moment. They took a moment to introduce us to him. It actually humanized the guy and let you know he's not just some random dude they picked off the street. They went out and found what they believe to be the best soldier. And we'll talk some more about some of the stuff that we find out about him.
I have a perfect interjection for a good soldier, though, because Erskine would say it's not about being a good soldier, but a good man. First Avenger is such a good movie.
The challenge here is he's back at his high school, right, where he was a legend. He wears number 10. He's JW10. His jersey's on the wall, right? And he's in there, and it appears, I don't know if it's his fiance, his wife, who it is, but he's talking to a lady. She's asked him if he's reliving the good old days, and he's struggling with the moment of, I'm having to step into Captain America's shoes and be this person who was essentially godlike. And after she leaves, and they have a moment.
Oops, sorry. I'm ruining the show already. Scott, without you, we'd go off the rails.
After she walked off, comes in his compatriot, who kind of has a quick talk with him about, kind of boosting him up. It's his kind of it's partner in crime and all of this, and he kind of gives him the best talk. And one of the key lines in there is that he's not trying to be Steve Rogers. He's just trying to be the best Captain America he can be and do what's right. The weird thing is he's literally carrying around the Captain America suit in a this is my 3-piece suit bag. It's it's just strange. Cap just wore it around. That's his thing. He didn't have to go get dressed. He wasn't Superman in a telephone booth. Cap wore it because he had to be ready at all times. This guy is carrying it around kind of hey, I'm ready to unveil it, and it just a little weird.
There's several things that don't feel quite right about it. And the suit itself, I actually really like. I do think it's hard to deny that the helmet fits Wyatt Russell a bit weird.
Yes, his jaw and mouth are just. It gives him this look like he's got his chin stuck out in front of his upper lip. It's just weird, and the way the chin strap sits on him, he just has this cheese grin all the time, almost like what it looks like, and it is weird. It doesn't have his natural fit. He doesn't have the same look. And again, we're gonna have to get used to Steve Rogers is not Captain America anymore, and Chris Evans has the perfect look for Steve Rogers, or at least that's we've been built into. So it's he just looks a little strange. Now the look of the suit, I'm with you. It looks really good. But then they move from the locker room outside to the middle of the football field, and it's like we get the USO show again from First Avenger.
Hearing the instrumentals of Star Spangled Man with a Plan in any context other than the First Avenger with Steve Rogers just feels gross. You want to take a shower afterwards.
If they're going to do that, they should have put the wings back on the side of his helmet.
Something. And there should have been some, maybe even if it was corny, it should have been him, holding a motorcycle or something. Even if it was propped up.
Yeah, he doesn't have the super strength. He can't quite lift it. Of course, then again, he is super strong. He's off the charts on every other reading. It's the dynamic of John Walker is weird.
He seems to be a Batman level. Just the peak of what a man can be.
Yeah.
Without being super anything. Which it seems it's interesting. I find it suspect. But we do get the Good Morning America interview, and he seems to come into his own. He seems a lot more comfortable once he gets that suit on and sits in front of the camera. And he really just cornballs it up. He's got a lot of the, hey, you, you, yes, I'm Captain America. And I'm that is such a, government done job of what Captain America was. I was, of course, talking, as we were watching it I was talking with Lauren, my fiance, and I was I think John Walker represents, the face of Captain America, what, executives would view Captain America as an IP, whereas Steve Rogers represents his Captain America is the potential of America, what we could be, what patriotism should be, what we can strive for. And I feel like John Walker represents what we are as is, which there's systemic problems with that.
Well, it's like they went out and they picked the best soldier they could find, but they looked for all the performance. They're looking for and a little bit of the attitude. He's able to care, but he's even later in the episode he says, that basically he's the government. You're they busted what is it? Red
Wing.
Red Wing, thank you. They busted Red Wing, and they make a comment well, it's government property, or something along those lines. Essentially, or it was when he's leaning against the car. Sorry, John Walker basically says that they got him out of it, and he's well, basically, we're the government, so you work for us. And it's one of these things that
anyone that's seen Winter Soldier is very uncomfortable with the way John Walker carries himself in his association with the government.
Yeah, he's too comfortable, and he is an agent of the government, whereas Steve Rogers was willing to do what was right, even if the government told him.
A U.S. agent of the government, if you will.
Going right to the comic books right there. Well done.
Yeah, I am.
Which he even goes to the same high school as they used in that comic book, the Custer's Grove High School in Georgia. So they literally lifted John Walker right out of
Georgia.
The comic book. Yeah. So the way his relationship with the government, clearly he's more trusting of the U.S. government. He's a good soldier. He will do what they say. Whereas Steve was willing to say, hey, the government's wrong here. And I need to be willing to do what's like the whole Sokovia Accords. Like this is wrong. Like we have to do what they tell us, but who says that what they are doing is right? Absolutely. And that was the whole reason that he and Iron Man got really cross for a long time.
Yeah, you would think, going into the MCU, you have Captain America and Tony Stark, and you're like, one of these people is going to oppose the government. And you're like, Tony? All right, so we go from that. We get to see Bucky. This is one of the most heartbreaking elements of this episode. Bucky is watching the Good Morning America, watching John Walker be paraded about as Captain America. And you can see he's got just visible discomfort through his face and body. And when the interviewer asks, did you know Steve? He says, well, no, I didn't. But, I looked up to him and he was kind of like a brother to me. And then I cringed and flinched and I was mad and uncomfortable. And Bucky looked like he was about to put somebody through a wall. And then we see that juxtaposed with Sam Wilson, with I'm spacing on the name right now. What's his buddy's name? His new buddy, Torres, right?
Yes, yeah,
Torres,
yeah.
And they're looking at a poster of John Walker, and the fact that he's just plastered everywhere is like John Walker is Captain America. It's like a movie poster. It's like Johnny Cage is Ninja Mime.
We have moved completely past secret identities.
Oh yeah.
like, hey, not only are we going to tell you who we have as Captain America, we're going to tell you his name, his birth date, his social security number. And in this day and age, they can find that information literally anywhere. So once they plaster his name out there, everyone knows. It's a little disappointing.
Torres was saying, he's like, he doesn't seem like that bad of a guy. And at this point, I'm kind of thinking that because everybody instantly hated him at the end of the first episode. You just see somebody else in the Captain America costume. It's like, punch him right in the face. And
you're not Steve.
I was like, listen, you are a walking disappointment, but it seems like, you have a decent heart, maybe. And so I was kind of with Torres there. As the episode goes on, we're quickly like, you're questionable, sir. I question your integrity. And then very quickly before going on the mission, Sam and Torres, we get a great scene where Bucky shows up and essentially goes, what the hell, Sam?
Oh, yeah, no, Bucky pulls no punches. He's like, why'd you give it up? This is your fault. Basically blaming Sam, saying, this is your fault. That guy doesn't deserve to wear the shield. You're supposed to have the shield. We will find out later in the episode the reason why Bucky is so upset by this. It's a breakthrough moment, even though it ends very abruptly. But Bucky's pissed, and then he finds out what Falcon is going to go do, or what Sam's going to go do, and he's like, "All right, well, I'm coming." Like he can stop him. I love the relationship between Bucky and Sam in this because every time they're together, for the most part, it's this awkward tension of we're just going to sit here and look at each other in a very uncomfortable way until somebody breaks.
There is at least two really great elements of banter. Do you remember them?
Well, there's one in the warehouse. One's in the warehouse when they're going back and forth.
There's two in that first interaction where Sam Wilson talks about the big three. This is androids, aliens, and wizards. And then Bucky says, that's not a thing. It's like, oh, yes, that's the thing. He's like, there's no wizards. And then it's
Sam says Doctor Strange. He goes, no, he's a sorcerer. Which, by the way, first time we hear sorcerer,
right?
Like, that was the number one thing I wrote down out of this entire thing. I'm like, sorcerer. Like, we know that about. And does that mean? And that term, the big three, aliens, androids, and wizards, is used by not just. Clearly it's a government thing because Captain America. John Walker is. If I say Captain America, I still feel like I'm talking about Steve. I can't connect that to John Walker yet.
That's why we'll just keep calling him John Walker, and by the time we get used to it, he'll be U.S. agent. So I'm not going to worry about it.
Perfect. But the fact that he references Doctor Strange as a sorcerer, he's not a wizard. He's a sorcerer, and there's a difference.
A sorcerer and then he brings a wizard without a hat, and then
he brings out Gandalf. He's like, how do you know about Gandalf? I read the book in 1937 when it was first released.
Yeah.
Yes. And being a Tolkien junkie, that literally new favorite show.
I was about to say, has Bucky now elevated to your favorite MCU character with just a line of dialogue?
I'll be honest. I'm a huge Sebastian Stan fan, and I still hold out hope that he'll take the mantle of Luke Skywalker. But at the same time, like it endeared me to him so much closer. This whole series, in the first episode, him trying to reconcile almost like a 12-step program, all the wrongs he's done in his life. And then in this episode, kind of continuing that forward, trying to put other things correct and trying to rectify some relationships. We're getting so much more development out of Sebastian Stan and out of Sam, his character, going back in the first episode where we find out about his family, what happened in the 5 years when he was gone, how his sister had to take up the family business. And there's so much good stuff. But I love Bucky more than I already did, and I was already a huge Bucky fan. I know Sam got the shield, but my heart longs for Bucky to be Captain America.
Oh, there's something with Bucky and the shield that just hurt me later.
Oh, when he catches the shield later on, and then throws it.
What he gets robbed.
Yes,
he catches the shield, and then John goes yoink. So moving, or once they start the mission, they're going back and forth, and Sam keeps calling Bucky Buck. He's like, you don't get to do that. You're not. He's like, well, why not? Steve called you Buck. It's like, yeah, you're not Steve. And Steve had a plan. He's like, I have a plan. Whatever. He jumps out, and then Bucky asks Torres. He's like, hey, where's the chute? And he's like, we're not high enough for a chute. And the fact that he does like Captain America Winter Soldier style, just jumps out of it. I shouted at the show. I was like, that's not water, Buck. it's not gonna be a soft landing.
Yeah, no. And he's just reaching out with his vibranium arm to try and catch any tree he can grab to slow his pace down. He still hit really hard. But prior to that, early on, I can't remember if it was before. No, sorry. It was after the jump. Sorry. I got ahead of myself. Never mind. So yeah, he lands and then and
then Red Wing goes up to him.
Yep. And then he tells him, hey, head north. I'm right over here.
And so, but that exchange, that Sam knew that Bucky was going to do that. He left him with no choice and knew. And the second he hit the ground, he's like, all right, let's go.
What's crazy, though, is at the speed they had to been flying, the distance that he traveled in that 1 minute of waiting was pretty dang far. But again, he's a super he has, like, I think we forget, and it was one of my favorite parts of when they left the warehouse. He sprints past the first truck. Oh, sorry, I'm way ahead of myself. There's so much good stuff in this episode when we finally get to a little bit of the action, but they sneak into the warehouse, right? They pair up, they start heading to the warehouse. Morning, Sean. And we start heading. They go to the warehouse, and then we start. Bucky just wants to run and knock these guys out and find out what's going on. And Sam's like, "Let's watch and see what happens.
Let's be methodical about this."
Yeah, that's the plan. And Bucky's plan is, no, I'm going to go punch these guys in the face. And there is a tense moment where he says, "You're not an assassin anymore." Right, where that doesn't sit well with Bucky because it's almost like a jab of, hey, you can't just go around killing people. And Bucky's mindset is like, well, that's how I get stuff done.
Yeah, he said, screw rule number 2.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, they go into the warehouse, they're watching as they see these people just pick. Okay, so they're super strong. They're picking up stuff. They have some good banter in the warehouse too.
I love that like Bucky just like stealthily like runs down the hallway, and then Sam just shows up out of nowhere. He's like, "What'd I miss? Nothing. That's right. Okay."
Yep. Yeah. And Sean just made a really good point. He said every time Bucky and Sam have a scene with just the two of them, it reminds of how great the chemistry is, and I absolutely agree. And as they're breaking down some of the barriers in their relationship, we're seeing them start to be, even though it's tense, they're being more open with each other, and they're going to have to figure out how to trust each other.
And everyone's been wanting more interactions between Sam and Bucky since 2016, just from the "Can you move your seat up?"
No, can you move your seat up? And then when Spider-Man beats the crap out of both of them, and they're like, "I hate you." Their dynamic is so good, and that fight also reminds us how good Spider-Man is. But anyways, but so those little bits of their relationship are just gold.
We quickly go from them tailing the trucks, Sam by air, Bucky by straight up foot, just running.
I do want to say, just prior to that, Sam makes a comment about Bucky's time in Wakanda.
Is that this scene?
I believe so, because I believe they're in the warehouse when this happens.
Spent a couple weeks in Wakanda and come out White Panther.
Yeah, and it's the White Wolf, and that's the first time that's the name T'Challa gave him. Right. And so he's, he references, and God rest Chadwick Boseman, but referencing the White Wolf name that he was given. How awesome would that be at the end of this thing? We actually have Falcon as Captain America, and we just have Bucky as White Wolf, or a change in name.
I'll bring it up later, Sean, but I very respectfully disagree because I laughed a little harder later in the show. So we will get to that. So yeah, they go after the trucks, and I love that Bucky was talking smack about Red Wing, and he's like, whoa, before you go, and Red Wing was scanning. He's like, there's like 6 people here, and Bucky only saw like 3 of them.
Yep.
But then they take off, and they see that there's somebody that looks like a hostage or something in the back of one of these trucks.
The best part prior to that combination is where he shows them on the screen how many there are, and as they start walking, he goes, "How many do you see now? 2, 3? Yeah, okay. All right, fine. I couldn't count them through the wall, but they do see the one hiding in the back of the truck, and this is the spot that I really love when they go on the chase, and Bucky, using his superhuman speed, flies right past the back truck as he's sprinting faster than Sam is flying. And he just runs up, jumps on the back of the truck, breaks in, and then there's the girl in there. And the second she smiled, I'm like, this is bad. This is going to be bad. And we just see him blown apart right into the back of the truck behind him. And it's one of those things where you recognize they're all in trouble. This lady took the drugs and just destroyed them. Their movie is going to be Captain America and the White Wolf. Yes.
That's season 2.
Yeah. No, my son actually, when we were watching these, he said it felt much more like a movie than a TV show. And I'm like, well, they're breaking it up into little bits, but the production value is all movie right here.
It's a 6-part movie.
Yes, absolutely. Totally. And I love that they're 45-minute episodes.
We're right?
With 6 minutes of trailers. But yeah, so he gets knocked back, and then we see this. Everybody starts coming, and they are not equipped for these guys.
To a slightly lesser degree, it's like taking on 6 Captain Americas.
Yeah, well, and Bucky has the super serum, so he can do all the stuff they're doing. But
there's a lot of
there's them. 6 of them, and he's struggling fighting the one. One of the cool things though is then we see the swoop in and support from Johnny Walker and his superhero
like country singer,
his superhero buddy, and we find out his name is Battlestar, which is also a nod to the comics.
Insert Tolkien character.
Oh my gosh. The funny part is we don't find out his name till a little bit later, but right here in the battle, they both jump in. Cap jumps straight out of the helicopter. Battlestar swings through and hits the guy.
Surprisingly well equipped with the shield. We see him use it a few different ways. He saves his buddy by throwing the shield underneath him when he gets knocked off the truck. He's bouncing it between guys. And in that Good Morning America interview, we saw him practice with it a little bit.
Yep. Now one of the cool things is as they're doing this battle, that shield's flying around taking some people out, and somebody happens to snatch it clean out of the air.
Bucky.
Yeah, Bucky reached out. Now, did you notice he grabbed it with his right hand, his non-robotic hand? He snatches it right up out of the air. Yeah. And it's one of those things that it harkens back to Captain America and the Winter Soldier, where Cap throws it at him and he turns around and he just like a frisbee, just snatches it, holds it clean. And here we're going to see
and he's
Bucky
thinking, grab it. He wants to take it.
Oh,
Bucky wants to take it. This little guy right here, this thing.
Yeah. He wants it bad. Well, it's not so much that he wants it or that he thinks.
He just thinks Walker should have it. Yeah,
that's it. His thing is not about who should wear it. It's that this guy doesn't deserve it.
Right? Because he gave Sam the nod. He said, "Yep, that's yours."
Yeah. Something along that line makes me feel like Bucky and Steve knew. Or like that they had talked about it before, that Steve wanted to relinquish the mantle. And
I got that impression.
Yeah, that he was aware of what was going on in advance.
So there's just Bucky, I think, would have a real hard time being Captain America if the country had any inkling of what his past was. Yep. He's like, you were a murderous assassin, you killed Howard Stark and like all these other things. You're not going to be our Captain America.
Yeah, totally.
As much as
he's still mentally fragile.
Yeah.
But we fast forward to them getting just absolutely throttled, just dealt with.
Yeah. The bad guys get away. Everyone gets handedly dealt with, including Johnny Walker. Yep. And then so Sam and Buck are just strolling down the road, bantering again. He's like, "Oh, I can see you thinking. See the cogs turning. Oh, they're locking up."
Yep.
And then John Walker and his buddy, the name it's something Hoskins. Lamar?
Yeah.
Lamar Hoskins?
Yeah.
They roll up and they're telling them to get in and they don't want to. But eventually they pop in the truck and they're talking back and forth kind of about the legacy of Steve and what there is to do about the flag smashers. And you can see Sam is attempting to have a civil discussion. Bucky's pissed.
Yeah. Well, even Johnny's like, does he just stare at me? Does he just stare? Is that all he does? And Sam's like, you get used to it. And then he basically is saying, you're not Captain America. You can wear the shield. You can do the stuff, but you are not the guy. But we also have to go back. This is Bucky's only friend from childhood. The only guy, and the guy who also fought to save his life and free him from Hydra. Like passing that mantle
freedom from Hydra in World War II, the only person in the world that believed in him when he was coming out of being the Winter Soldier.
Yep.
So he's saved his life countless times.
Yep. And so I love that he calls him out. He's like, he's challenging the guts. Now, early in the episode, Walker says, I don't have super strength. I don't have super speed, but I don't have the super or the super serum, but I do have guts. And that's hearkening back to, First Avenger, where Tommy Lee Jones' character says, you don't win a war with weapons or anything. You win a war with guts. And here we have that reconnected where Bucky says, you ever jumped on a grenade? Something that Steve did. And then I have 4 times. It's a thing I do with my helmet. It's a reinforced helmet. Anyway, like it bothers him. And then he's like, pull over, just get in here. But it's, or I guess they're already in, but that dialogue back and forth is one of those things like, yes, I've done that. I do have guts. I am a good soldier. He's trying to plead with, just believe me. I'm a good guy, but Bucky's still not, he's not having it at all. And we keep getting this term, the blip. My son last night was like, why do they keep saying the blip? I'm like, that's what they've, and why this is the new term. And my son asked me about this, about why they don't call it the snap or anything else, why they call it the blip. And I told him that basically if you were one of the people who was gone and then you come back 1 second later and it's just 5 years have passed, that's a blip on the radar. And
also,
for the people who came back, it's a blip.
The only people that know it was a snap is the Avengers.
Yeah, true.
To everyone else, people just disappeared.
Yep.
Nobody knows that Thanos snapped his fingers or something. They know Thanos is responsible for it, but I'm sure not everyone knows that it was the finger snap that did that. But I love that the last line that like sent first Bucky over the top and then Sam is when the guys when Lamar's like says he's Battlestar. Bucky goes Battlestar.
Stop
Battlestar.
He's like, I'm Battlestar. I'm John's partner. Stop the car. I'm out. Nope. We're giving ourselves superhero names. I'm out of here. I love that.
What's Matt talking about here? A monkey and a lizard. I don't know what that could be.
There's some inside joke there. Oh, Godzilla.
Yeah. I was like, come on, Scott.
Sorry. Hey, that's coming soon.
It is. Well, I'm very confused.
The 31st is the release day.
It says that, and then like you look up on some things and it's saying the 25th, and I'm like, wait, is one theatrical, one HBO Max? I got to look into it. But back to this, and then Walker says to Sam, it would just really help me to have Steve's wingman. It's like, it's always got to be that last line. And like Sam looked like he was considering working with John, and then he's like, all right, I hate you. I'm out of here. And and then they move along. And I do believe this is when we have the discussion that leads us to them visiting a new character that has definite ramifications for the past of the MCU.
Yeah, prior to getting to that, he says we're going to go visit this person in Baltimore, but we get we see the backstory portion for the crew, where they're going into hiding. The people who just ripped off all these drugs, stole all this stuff. We also see that they're trying to wipe out their backstory, and they're basically they say that like tomorrow's the day. This is all happening, and I need to know if you're in or you're out. And we see that the female who was in the trailer that was being followed is the leader. Carly Morgenthau, and is the leader of the Flag Smashers.
I just realized I was trying to say the name and I was muted. So,
yeah, Carly Morgenthau,
which originally was Carl Morgenthau in the comics.
Oh wow, okay, yeah. But they're tracking him pretty intensely. But yeah, then we cut back to the jet, and they're like, we need to go see this guy. From there, we go to Baltimore, right? We're going to go meet this person that Sam or Bucky knows.
And I got because I know a little bit about like Patriot and stuff, and I know that they're setting up the Young Avengers. So I was, when I was watching the show, I was like, hey, this is when we're going to meet Eli Bradley and set up the Young Avengers, which we do, but he is not at all the focus of the scene. He's in there for like a second.
Prior to that, just real quick, in the plane, we say Bucky wants to steal the shield.
Right.
And Sam reminds him, hey, you remember what happened last time we stole the shield? He was on the run for 2 years with Steve in hiding. And
Sharon became like an enemy of the state.
Yep. And we still haven't seen her introduced. We know she's going to be in this somewhere. But yeah, then we end up at I love the line in the thing where the kid goes, hey, it's the Black Falcon. And he's like, what? And he's like, yeah, the Black Falcon. That's what my dad says you are. Why? Because I'm the Falcon and I'm black? And the kid's like, and he goes, so you're just the black kid?
And those one of those was like, hey-o. And that referring back to what Sean was bringing up later, that was the hardest I laughed in the entire episode.
Yeah. And he goes, it's just Falcon Kid, and like taps him on the leg. And then he even tells the other kid, he goes, I got him good. And walks by, which is such a great thing. It's like, I'm not this black person character. I'm just this character. I'm just the Falcon.
But also I'm not a larger than life person either. Like, he bantered with the kids a little bit, and there's a little sense of like community there. And I thought that was great.
But yeah, then we get to go inside and find, and I did a little bit of research after we find out who's inside this house, because he knocks and he says he wants to talk to Isaiah, and we don't get a name of the kid who's at the door, but there's a heavy hinting that it might be Eli. But we find out that there's more people like Sam or like Bucky and Steve. And And Isaiah gets mad and throws basically a tin that you'd have dominoes in into the wall. And Sam's like, "Oh crap. Like, we're not ready for this."
Well, the reason he lets him in is like Bucky gives reference to this country where they met in different circumstances when he was still the Winter Soldier, and Isaiah was someone that had been experimented on and given the serum. And he's like, "If I remember right, I whooped your ass and tore
half
arm
that
off."
arm. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, such a good line when he says that. And so they ran tests on him and everything, and he's one of the ones that he says that Hydra feared most, like Steve.
Right.
And we also know that from the comic books, there's a portion where Isaiah was Cap. He took up the mantle after Cap went missing.
Right. And there's so many heavy implications in this. He's like, he talks about what Bucky was able to come back from and get pardons and all this and stuff. He's like, "I served my country and spent 30 years in prison getting experimented on by people, some of them your people," which we find out he's not talking about a skin color. He's talking about an agency.
Hydra.
Right.
Yep. So we know Hydra has been doing stuff to people with the super soldier serum, or a form of it.
So the fact that there's somebody else with that serum in their blood lends credence to the fact that it could very well have spread, and we might have maybe even a diluted sense, like they're just taking it from blood samples and stuff. And maybe we get some backstory on the Flag Smashers and why they're so powerful.
Yep.
It's very possible. But the back and forth of just racial injustice in this scene, coupled with like great MCU storytelling, it's all woven very naturally and organically, and it feels bad. Like it's a rough watch. But I really hope that this is not the only time that we see Isaiah. I think that there's a lot more that can be done with his story. A flashback scene would be really cool. Obviously, it's not like his show, but I'd love to see more of what having a black super soldier in the, I believe was it the 50s? Yeah, 51. 51 is when they met.
That's when they met.
So,
Sam asked the question after they leave about, you're telling me there's a black super soldier running around in the 50s that nobody knows about? And clearly they kept it a secret. And then we also, with the grandson, Eli, who's the grandson of Isaiah in the comics, ends up being young Patriot being Patriot, and he's part of the Young Avengers. Now, was the experimentations done on Isaiah and then he had kids, so genetically it's passed down?
I think that's a very viable theory.
Because we also talked about this, is that maybe why John Walker's so far advanced. He's at the peak of what a human could do without super soldier serum. And so if that's the case,
a diluted version of it in his blood.
Yeah, exactly. Naturally, the question is, well, where did it come from? But we talked about, and this is a personal theory, is sorry, my son's joining. Is John Walker some maybe grandson of Steve Rogers who went back in time and maybe came back through? But that's a theory for another day. We'll see.
And we get, I think, what's really important that they do in this episode is we go from talking to Isaiah Bradley, and we get inklings of the racial injustice throughout history, but then we get it brought right up to today, and it's like, this is what it looks like today when we have Bucky and Sam getting into an argument in the streets about whether or not Bucky should have told Sam about this guy that he's known about for essentially 70 years, and never said anything. And then instantly we have some couple cops pull up and says, "Is this guy bothering you?" And I just sank down in my bed. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
but that's a real narrative of what's happening in the world today, where two people are arguing, and the assumption is that it has to be the African American's fault, right? That's not. And I love the fact that they're being relevant about real issues that are dealt with today. And what's funny is in that whole scenario, they come after Sam initially, and then it turns out it's not Sam. Bucky's the one with the warrant.
Right.
But the initial assumption, 2 cars pull up for a discussion between 2 guys who say, no, everything's fine, but they're just talking heatedly. Somebody calls
pushing it. Like, even though Bucky's like, it's fine. He's like, well, I need to see your ID. And it's a little similar, or a little bit of a reflection of the bank scene, where the only common thread that the banker has with Sam is like, oh, well, you're the Falcon. Can you put your arms out here? Can I get a picture? And this one's like, oh, he's an Avenger. I didn't recognize you without the goggles. So sorry for bothering you. And
as soon as they find out, or they recognize, oh wait, that's Falcon, then they're like, okay, let's back off. We're going to give him credit because he's a superhero, but not because he's just a good guy out in the street. It's this double standard of how we treat people. The initial thought being, this is a black man in the street arguing with a white guy. We're going to arrest him. And then they find out he's somebody important, and it's like, oh, never mind. And then they run the information and find out that it's actually Bucky who's got a warrant.
And there's so many instances that we've seen or heard about with celebrities where they said they were pulled over or something and they were treated awfully until somebody recognizes them. And that's a whole different story. And that's not okay at all. I commend Marvel for
this is a very sensitive, hard topic, and they're addressing it head on. Right. They didn't dive around it. They didn't avoid it. They could have easily not put that stuff in, but they addressed it, and they did it very tactfully, but also showing this is a problem that's real in our neighborhoods.
And I think I hope this is not the only instance that we see of this. And I think it needs to be explored further, because it was explored in Sam Wilson's comics. It was also explored in the comic Truth, Red, White, and Black, which is where we find out about Isaiah Bradley. And I think there's a lot of implications, much like having a black president, of having a black Captain America. And there is something where if you are to be taking this story seriously with a realistic approach, then there's things that have to be discussed. And we were talking about this before the show, the audience of Marvel is so huge and overlaps so many different backgrounds and stuff like that. The fact that they are implementing this and getting it into the heads of everybody, no matter what political spectrum you fall under and stuff, because this is about common human rights. It's not a matter of opinion. And I'm not going to go into a deep dive into that. I'm just saying it's important. I'm glad we're looking at it, and I hope this episode is not a one and done. I think that it should be a through line through this.
Totally. I'm just glad it's being addressed. They have a platform, and they're using their platform for positive, and that's what I don't want to get onto the social justice type of stuff, but this is a very real issue that being from the Northwest, it's less of an issue here, but you hear all kinds of stories about how on the East Coast it is still very prevalent, especially down south a little bit further. And so I'm glad they're using it as an opportunity to point out the bias and the perceptions that still exist between how officers still treat people, and not just officers, but there's a social setting to that too, and the perceptions. And good on Marvel, take it head on. Why not?
Absolutely. And I love that this show's so different from WandaVision. In WandaVision, we deal with grief, trauma, depression, anxiety, and all these like emotional things. And then here we're talking about people's rights, veterans, war, and they're just they're really taking advantage of the fact that these episodes allow us to do a deep dive into these characters and explore things greater than surface level. Like we get character development in the movies, but not to this level of depth. And it's something that's really appreciated.
We saw that with WandaVision. We got to go way, way, way deep with Wanda. Over 5.5, 6 hours, we got to build character and find out what's really at the heart of all these things. And so with that, we do get a flash forward to I'm skipping over the airport scene for just a moment, where we get into some character stuff with Sam and Bucky when they have to they get arrested, they go to prison or the jail, and they're forced into therapy again. They're like, in the office now, we're going to talk about this.
Well, what's because the reason he's getting arrested is because he's missed a like court mandated therapy session. But I believe we find out that his therapist is like, I didn't call for this. Yeah. So John Walker was behind like every element of this. He got him called in and he got him released. He's trying to be like, I'm your buddy, I'm your pal, I'm your friend. It's like, it's not how we do things. And Sam tells him, I guess this is after. We'll go into the therapy session first because it was a moment of great levity between Sam and Bucky, but then there was also some revealing emotional moments as well.
Yeah, so they sit down, they start having this conversation. Who wants to start? They neither one of them wants to say anything, and then they do these different exercises. It's none of it. They're just basically using it as an opportunity to poke each other and make jabs. One of the cool things is then they do this intimate thing where they face each other and they slide in nice and tight. And they hit knees, like, get closer. Like, what, we going right or left? Oh, yeah. And then they always take it like, yeah, go ahead, get in here. Like a macho thing, like, yeah, I can take being this close to you. I'm tough enough for that. And they overcompensate by like pulling each other forward to get locked in, like literally knee and crotch sitting that close to each other. Which it's a very vulnerable space to be in. But they started out by not saying anything, by not doing anything. They go ultra old school with a staring contest, and literally the therapist is looking at him like, are you guys just having a staring contest? And starts snapping, hey, snap out of it, come on.
And then she asks Bucky, she's like, why does Sam aggravate you so much? And he's about to open his mouth, and she's like, without a childish answer, please. And I just love that these guys, like, Bucky is basically like 106 years old, Sam is a grown-ass adult, and they are both still children.
The one thing I loved about this, and it was a huge character thing for Bucky, because he gets mad a little bit because he's pissed and he asks him, why did you give up the shield? Steve trusted you. He picked you. And if he was wrong about you, and you hear his voice break, if he was wrong about you, that means he could have been wrong about me too. Which means that Bucky is struggling with it, whether he can even live up to the fact that Steve trusted him, that Steve fought for him. Like he has to fulfill that.
His only real coping mechanism is to tell himself, Steve believed in me. Because I've done all this wrong, all these horrible monstrosities, but Steve believed in me. I got to imagine that's the one thing he keeps coming back to that helps hold him together. It's his glue. So it just puts a giant wedge in the reconstruction of his character that Sam kind of just turned his back on Steve, essentially, or the legacy of Steve. And we see what that means to Bucky, and it's really devastating.
Yeah. And then, like, that's uncomfortable. And then Sam basically is like, all right, we're done here. And I love that he says, this is something that you and Steve may never be able to come to grips with, but I did what I thought was right. Sam did not pass the mantle of Captain America to anybody else because he didn't live up to it either.
Right.
Sam retired Captain America, and then the government took it up again.
Right. So it's less so of like, hey, somebody else should do this, and more so just like there shouldn't be a Captain America without Steve.
Yeah,
which is a fine approach, I think. Absolutely.
I'm with you there. Yeah, and it was one of those things where I felt like Bucky needs to recognize that Sam wasn't trying to Sam didn't willfully say this guy gets to be Captain America. Yes, sweetheart.
He wasn't relinquishing the shield as much as just trying to. I think he was trying to honor Steve and saying that Steve should be the only one to carry that legacy. And
yeah, I'm with you on that. And that's burying the legacy, I think, was what Sam was attempting to do, is just saying it ended with Steve. But there's no reason to carry Captain America forward. What we need to do is we need new people. We need new heroes, which is, boy, they're introducing them left and right now. Oh, yeah. But anytime you pass forward the mantle,
Eli and Isaiah,
they're passing the mantle forward, and they're trying to say somebody else keep carrying on this other person. And maybe that's what this show is really going to do. It's going to bury Captain America's thing, or maybe we see Falcon take it up, but it should stop with Steve. It should be let go.
And well, let's talk for a moment about who is currently holding the shield and the mantle. John Walker. We find out that he was behind this whole thing, and we have a I was going to say conversation, but a little bit of a confrontation outside the precinct. Is that where?
Yes.
Yeah. Where he gets their attention by turning on a cop siren, which I'm just like, dude, you're such a douche.
Can I say one thing? I just want to flash back real quick. Prior to their therapy session, we had the airport scene where it's really quick. Basically, they're trying to smuggle the stuff out, and they're like, "How much time do we have?" They're trying to take all these drugs,
the flag smashers,
and they're trying to get away. And it appeared to me, I don't know this for certain, but what's her name? Carly Morgenthau, her character is, it looked like maybe her brother or somebody she's very close with was the one who stayed behind. So they ask, like, how much time do he have? And he says, a different gentleman says, we have none. It's the power broker's men, meaning and now we have that power broker involved. And
we forgot to mention earlier that they received a text when they were in hiding with a civilian that said that, you stole from me and I'm going to come to kill you.
Yes. You took you stole from me and I'm going to kill you.
I think Pat's hit the nail on the head here. I think the show is showing us that the Captain America legacy is too important to the MCU. We'll see how they explore that.
Very much so. But then, so we get the power broker. They take off in the plane. One of the guys comes back, pushes a light pole over, which I don't know if anybody understands physics of how that actually works, but those are buried like 8 feet in the ground. And I know it's meant to show that he's got super strength, but you would need Hulk strength to pull that off. But anyways, that's just me being...
He basically snapped a tree in half.
Yep. And he pushed from the bottom, like at the breaking point. No, you need leverage. He'd have to pull from the top.
Maybe it was rotten.
All right, case solved. Then, but he pushes that down. He takes a run at them, and immediately when he started running, they're going to shoot him. And my son's like, "What?" And then he gets shot. I don't know.
Does not make you bulletproof.
It is its one weakness, I guess.
The whole point was that he was supposed to give them more time. How much more time did he give them? Like 5 seconds? All he did is run it. Well, I guess he
did put a pole in the street, which caused them to stop the cars. And we see one guy run out onto the runway and upset, but we see that guy called. They got away.
Now we're interested. This is like potentially our third villain.
Yeah, so we got
Power Broker, the Flag Smashers, and then we'll get to the third one here in a couple minutes.
Yeah, but then we also have to think, is John Walker inadvertently being a villain?
Antagonist as well.
Because we also know from the comics, where does John Walker get his eventual, and Lamar get their eventual super strength?
I don't know.
Power broker
says the pole breaking is more believable than the tension strand falling or failing that'll hold a car. I've seen it. I think that's a fair point. And so we don't know much about this. Do you see this? You see this action happening right here?
Yeah, he loves to join our conversations.
I'm being assaulted. He's straight up biting my arm. So then I think we revisit the precinct then.
Yeah, we're back at the precinct, but I just wanted to tie in the power broker because in the comics, the power broker is the one who gives the super strength medicine to Lamar and John that gives them the ability to be superhuman. And so, but they call them over outside, but this is the moment where John Walker's still trying to convince them to join them. But instead, when they say that we're going to do it on our own, John Walker says, okay, a word of advice, then stay the hell out of my way.
Right. Because he said, we're more free agents. You guys have all these things that you have to abide by, accords and whatnot. So, and I think as this episode has gone on, we're more and more seeing the true character behind John Walker. And not that he's a straight up villain, but he's far-fetched from being Steve Rogers.
He's a good guy, who's doing it for the wrong reasons. Now, this may point to a scenario that's very much like Captain America versus Iron Man, where they're both think they're doing the right thing. They're just doing it for completely different ways. But the Bucky and Sam are attempting to do this in the right way. Whereas, Captain America and Battlestar are attempting to do it the government way.
Battlestar?
So bad. But anyways, it's a nod to the comics. But this is where we also find out that there's somebody else that they need to talk to. And Bucky tells him, hey, we need to talk to this guy. He knows all of Hydra's secrets.
There's a lot of players for 6 episodes.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, tying all of these characters together, there's... or was it? He says here, he knows all of Hydra's secrets. Don't you remember Siberia? And he wanted to know about Siberia, where I was kept, and he wanted to know exactly where because they were searching for him. And then we get let's go see Zemo.
And the music kicks in.
Oh man! Now I pointed this out to you, or go ahead.
I was just gonna say I had speculated before the show started. Once we knew Zemo was in this, I said I think he's escaped and it has something to do with the blip. Maybe his guards disappeared or something. But now we find out that he's still in the same prison, I believe, or in prison, which implies that he's been there since 2016. It's currently the year 2024 in the MCU. So he's been in prison for 8 years, steaming, fuming over what happened with Civil War.
I just want to go back to something. Pat asked or made a comment about Power Broker and what are the odds that it's somebody that we already know with a different identity coming back.
I think that's very possible. I originally thought it was Zemo before I found out at the end of the episode that he's in prison. So now I don't know what to speculate. I'm trying to think of, Captain America villains. We know Red Skull is up in space somewhere. Alexander Pierce seems to be dead, so maybe not a Captain America villain. Is the Power Broker Ross? Thunderbolt Ross?
He had control of the serum.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Is that how we get Red Hulk? Anyways.
So I think that's really... Sorry, I should have brought that up. But, Pat, I think that's a good theory. I don't know how to theorize with it. I don't know.
The hard part is there's a lot of options out there, and which one? They're already introducing a lot of different avenues. There's so much to pull from.
Power Broker, we're finally getting Mephisto. That's his alias.
Is it Evan Peters?
Yeah, Evan Peters is the Power Broker. The Power Broker, Ralph Boner, is in control of the Super Soldier Serum. And that's how they're crossing these series.
That is so good. Well, in that case, it could be Emperor Palpatine because we do have a crossover to Star Wars in this final little cut where we have
I'm so glad you brought this up to me because I think this is one of the funniest things that they've done in MCU.
Zemo is in cell 2187. Who else was housed in cell 2187?
I do believe that is Princess Leia Organa.
In The New Hope. Yep. Oh, my goodness. When I saw that, I saw the number. I didn't really connect the dots, and I saw online somebody wrote exactly what it was. And anytime you see numbers attached to anything, you have to think there's a tie-in here. And the fact that they pulled over the Star Wars franchise, knowing that Disney's now in charge of everything, is so beautiful.
I should have been looking because one of my favorite Easter eggs that I always bring up is in Captain America Civil War. The cell that held Bucky is cell D23, which D23 is the Disney Expo. That's like their Comic-Con.
Yep.
And so I thought that was great. So yeah, I should have had my eyes fixed on it. But I watched this on a work night at midnight. Pretty dead tired, so I'm not at my best watching this show. So
I'm gonna
do all the research.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm leaning on some other people's research. I like some of these comments and some of the things that people found in these episodes. I'm like, holy cow, how did I miss that? And so then you start trying to compile them because there's so many. We found that out with WandaVision as well. The way that Marvel layers stuff in is so intense, and so there's a chance that we'll have stuff coming that we haven't expected from all over the place. Sean just made a comment here. Ross has been experimenting super soldiers since the Incredible Hulk. It's not unthinkable to believe Ross never stopped trying to get his Abomination right. Ooh.
And fun fact, Abomination is reported to be showing up in She-Hulk.
Correct. So do we have a branch over to all these things here? Possibly.
Also,
but they're
Ross
also
a younger Ross is going to be showing up in Black Widow.
Nice.
Like
so one of these things is the difference with Ross, though, is he tries to activate super serum with different types of chemical mixtures or using like the Hulk used gamma in order to activate it. He's trying to activate it in different ways, but working it into a pill that you can just give out to people. It's very much like be patient in Injustice when they're given the Kryptonian serum, so everyone becomes Superman.
Right. So that like Joker and Green Arrow and stuff can survive punches from Superman. I want to start, since that was really the last shot of the trailer. The episode. I want to start getting our thoughts together here of what we thought of the overall episode. I think that I love everything that episode 1 set up as far as character goes, but I feel like we're really up and kicking and we've really started moving with episode 2, both with themes, with like the underlying tones, and with the setup for all the villains and stuff, and having the like the Flag Smashers explained a bit more. There's a lot to take in. Less to theorize than I would say not Black Widow, but WandaVision. But I would say maybe more to theorize about than we had in WandaVision episode 2. I think Falcon Winter Soldier has a stronger 1-2 punch than WandaVision did. We'll see how the whole series pans out, but I am loving it so far.
The big thing for me is the character development. We're getting great comment, Sean. The great thing about this one is we're getting the character development. You and I are always big on character development. There's nothing worse than a show where you feel like you didn't get to know anybody, i.e. the Whedon cut of Justice League. No character development, just a rush story all the way to the end.
I'll pop this up just because, if you're here watching our channel and supporting us, then I would love to do the same. Sean, if this is the channel people can find you, then make sure to follow Sean Wingblade on YouTube. If not, feel free to throw that in the description so people can find your channel and watch that review because, cross promote. That's how we do here.
That's what I'm talking about. We got to help each other. Everyone's in this together. But yeah, the character development in this
together.
That's the biggie for me. Too many shows don't spend enough time getting to know the people, and in the end, you end up with this letdown feeling of I wish I had known more about this character. I wish I was more invested. And for the first time, I liked Sam in Civil War and Infinity War and Endgame, and even though Endgame he pops in at the very end. I like Sam's character. He's very good.
He's likable, but the most depth we got with him was Winter Soldier, where we just saw that he was working with vets and stuff and talking trauma and stuff, which was enough for us to get attached to him. And kind of like, I feel like the radar is if Steve likes you, we like you.
Yep.
And that carries a lot of weight. And I think that up until this point, Sam was really living off of the reputation that he's Steve's friend. So he's our friend. But now he gets to stand on his own along with Bucky, and we get to appreciate him much further.
Totally. But even with that, we're getting to find Bucky spent half his childhood being Steve's best friend, watching out for Steve. So Steve loves this guy. He fights right alongside Steve, and then he gets put into cryo sleep and brought out to be an assassin after every once in a while with a robotic arm and some drugs. And he has to go to Wakanda to get unbrainwashed, get a new arm. And even that, he's still, okay, he's not brainwashed anymore. Great. He's still got all kinds of normal human being issues for a 106-year-old.
And he said in Civil War, I remember all of them. It's like not being behind the steering wheel of your own body.
Well, the fact that
you're sitting passenger side while your body is taking lives.
The fact that he watching with Wingblade, there's the YouTube channel.
There you go. Follow him. Check out the reviews and stuff. Such.
In the first episode when we find out that he's trying to rectify and make right all these things, so he goes out and he has lunch with this guy, and it turns out he assassinated this guy's kid for literally no reason. He was a side person on the side of murdering somebody else. He happened to be there. And instead of letting him go, he shoots him. And so he's trying to right this relationship. So I think with Bucky, we're getting that. I'm trying to deal with and cope with the fact that I've done so much bad stuff. And even though he was brainwashed, he still did it.
Just to tie the two episodes together, did you know on Bucky's list of amends, Zemo's on that list?
Yeah.
Wondering the context of that.
It was Zemo. It was his family.
Well, Bucky had nothing to do with Zemo's family because they were in Sokovia. It was Age of Ultron that wiped out Zemo's family. So that's why I'm like, why is Zemo on that list? What interaction do they have? Or is the amend for Bucky himself? Does Bucky need to wipe out Zemo because Zemo tore apart the Avengers? I don't know.
Or maybe he's got to find a way to forgive him for trying to utilize him as a weapon. Or maybe he just needs to find out, what did Zemo know about what happened to Bucky?
Right. Just something, a loose end that has not been tied up. So hopefully he gets to cross that off his list. Just really respect Marvel as always. I thought this was a fantastic episode. I can't wait till next week. I can't wait till our next review and breakdown. But I mean, that's it for me. Scott, any last thoughts?
Let me unmute. Sorry. I think I'm just, following off the heels of WandaVision and how well that did. This just reaffirms that I trust the quality of product that Marvel is going to put on the screen. I have very little idea of where this is going to go in the long run. Hold on, sweetie. Very little idea of where it's going to go. But clearly she wants me to wrap it up. I'm grateful that they're putting out good products on the screen.
All right. Oops.
Yes.
So yeah, with that, we will wrap it up for.
This is what being a father of four kids is like, especially when two of them are still little. But yeah,
listen, if I set stuff up quicker, then we could have got this started quicker. So that's on me. But
no, it's all right.
Thank you guys for joining us so very much. And until next week, I mean, if you guys have some thoughts and comments, please leave them down below. We love to hear from you. Respond. Make sure to like the video. That helps us tremendously. Subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, keep it real. And we are out. We're going to play this thing. This thing here. Go ahead. Play it. We're out. Wait, where's the play button? Are we playing? Hey, everyone. Jesse here, and don't exit out quite yet. While I have you, I want to take just a quick second to talk with you about something that's very important to me. Right now on the Flickin' Reel channel, we're just a couple of guys sitting around and speaking geek, but we think that we can build into something greater. We think that we can build a community, a place for all of us to come together and talk about our thoughts and experiences about various types of fandoms. For this to happen, we do need your help, so please do me a huge favor and subscribe to the channel. Along with that, click that little bell icon that notifies you anytime that we upload new content for your viewing pleasure. So again, thank you so much for stopping by and visiting us this week. We hope we'll see you again next week. And just remember, until then, keep it real.